Alright, thank you everybody for coming back. As you can see, the sun is still moving down. I'm trying to get as many of these videos in today as possible because my schedule has been so flat out lately. And I wanted to also give you guys some time to do some of your own investigating before I posted these. So I could have put these out sooner when I had more time, but I decided to wait. I also wanted to organize my notes a little bit, so here we are, moving right along. Again, oh my god, question 1. What stands out? And we just go back to the page 3 highlights. So basically what I did was I went back and I looked at my notes from before. Here they are. The videographer. Who was that? Let's think about the training video. Let's think about, you know, them being rushed and this hourglass theme. Right? Number 7 showing up again? The fact that this is a religious cult being so obvious? Okay, we've got a lot to work with here. Let's think about this. Firstly, let's organize our thoughts. Videographer. We're going to focus on that for now. So who is the videographer? Who, are they management? Like, okay, what's their name? That's basically what we're looking for here. Who's the videographer? And what is the videographer? I know that sounds like a really strange question to ask, but again, remember, if the question sounds strange, then probably no one else is asking it. So, are they management? I mean, this only creates more spawns no matter what answer you get. And when was the videographer there? So let's think about this question for a minute. Why is this a spawn? We have an answer to that, but it doesn't seem suspicious until you realize that they're management in a place where creepy stuff is happening. How did they make management? And let's ask about maybe their history. You know, them being here in this situation with that sort of capability, that's very sus, in my opinion. And when was the videographer there? We don't really have any idea. So I want more information on that. And look, I would not necessarily trust the clocks that you would see in that video because they could be wrong. We're talking about a liminal space where we know the exits are probably a lie. You can't trust the clocks. I'm just saying, I wouldn't. So this is going to give us a better idea of what this person's position was at the time of the video. And where was the videographer anyway? Well, they were obviously in liminal land. But this only spawns more questions. So, like, what is exactly liminal land? Where is liminal land? La, la, la. There's just so much there. Oh my goodness. Why was the videographer there? So, this is just another backhanded way of getting to what this is about. Who the videographer was, why they were there in the first place, what led them to believe that they needed to grab a video and start running in that direction. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. And how did the videographer get there in the first place? I mean, we're assuming that they just went there to work. Did they take a bus to work? Was it a bus that is part of a system that is owned by whoever owns liminal land? We're assuming Charon, maybe. And is Charon even in charge of liminal land? Is liminal land its own body? Is Charon a completely separate body? And what about the park? Is the park actually liminal land? Or is the park something else? And then, who owns Welcome Home? There's just so much there. So, a lot of these questions lead to many, many other interesting concerns and areas. So when we're looking at this story, some of the spawns that occur are, were they employed by liminal land? Were they employed by Charon? Were they employed by the park? And what is the park? We still don't really know yet. I mean, we're assuming it's liminal land because it sounds like a park name, but seriously, we don't know that yet. Were they employed by Welcome Home? Some food for thought. Based on the type of employee they were, we can estimate how much access and knowledge they had. We can also kind of figure out where they might have been living. Were they living on the premises? Were they living outside the park? How far away from the park they were living? And yeah, just general knowledge and associations in regards to all of this. And again, where is liminal land? More food for thought. The size of liminal land will be dependent on where it is located, because geographically there are limitations to where you can build certain structures in that. So I know that the authors would have been thorough enough to consider this, and I would like to see, you know, something that is in line with this sort of logic. And sure enough, I did. The video was difficult to understand when it came to describing the size of the park. That's just a consideration here. And who employed the videographer? Was it the park? This is another way of asking who they worked for. Because, again, it just... this whole setup here just smacked of sus stuff. And this will tell us a lot about other things that are going on. And is the park a separate entity? So we're assuming that the park is liminal land. Again, like I said earlier, it may not be. There's a thing called a missing persons report that you'll find in all of this. And my gut feeling when I was looking at the missing persons report, and you're wondering, oh my god, how did you come across a missing persons report? Well, if you type in liminal land, you'll find a lot of information, and this is some of it. So, and where do you type in liminal land? You can type it anywhere. You can type it in Google. Well, I say anywhere. I would be careful about that, but Google, YouTube, for example, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you go, you'll find some interesting stuff. I found a missing persons report, and my gut feeling was Margaret Jacobson, and that I needed to remember that name. And another gut feeling was that phone number. I didn't trust that phone number. Especially not after all this other stuff that came up. Seriously, who would trust that phone number? No. That's all of the no. Put my notes away here. And what I also found interesting was another Frank shows up. So we had Frank the Puppet, now we've got Frank Strother. And I thought, okay, well, there's two. And there's a gut feeling here as well. Herman Reed. That image seemed eerie. At the time, I didn't know why, but when I looked back over these notes and I looked back at that image, it made sense. So I'm not going to give you that right now because I'm trying to do this in order of when I came up with these concepts and how it all hit me. So you can kind of see how things came together for this happy little gamer. Now, this sign-off was obviously hijacked. It was not intended that the station should just bleep out and then start showing these missing persons images, which is one of the reasons why I don't trust the phone number. And whoever wants these people found is on the other end of that phone number. And I'm pretty sure that whoever wants these people found is directly in line with whoever wanted the sign-off signal hijacked. So a safe bet, anyone who rings to report any of those missing people would also go missing. So it would be interesting to see if the authors of this storyline show us some of that happening. Now, we've got to remember that these missing persons reports and that video that we found is actually old. It's about 49 years old, just so you know. And that number came in very important. If you think about it, that's a multiple of 7. Again, 7 coming in very useful. here's some food for thought. These may just be bait for people to ring the number, but I kind of doubt it. The hijacking of the station says otherwise. And the list is a mix of men, women, and children. I found that very important. And oddly, there were no subliminal messages, and I had to wonder why, but at the same time, maybe it was just the fact that the phone number and the hijacking were, you know, already taking place in that particular instance. So, yeah, maybe subliminal messages in that part of the storyline would have been overkill. Then we talk about liminal land on YouTube. And I found this to be very interesting and very juicy in the storyline as well. We see a theme. Where were you when it happened? It? What was it? That was just immediately sus as soon as I saw it. And so, oh, okay, so what is it? What was it? The closing down? And here's another question. Is it going to happen again? I don't know if I've written that here. But was it the closing down? That was my gut feeling. But at the same time, I'm thinking, no. It is something else, perhaps. And then again, I found out something later on that will directly relate to this question. The closing down. Was that it? I was right about something. I will give you that much of a clue. The website and YouTube. Can I just say, the logo is really cool, guys. The developers and creators, the authors of this entire thing, they made such a good logo. It has all the features that are recommended for a good marketable image that you can put on jerseys and hats and stuff like that. And I just thought, wow, guys, this looks so good. So congratulations if they're watching this video. Moving right along though, just trying to stay focused. There's a blood red sky and a Ferris wheel right there as their banner, and I'm thinking, yeah, okay, well, I mean, we already knew this was a bad thing, so okay. But was it perhaps an accident on the Ferris wheel, or perhaps another ride at Liminal Land? Alright, obviously at this point, Liminal Land is the park. We can definitely say that at this point. When we look at the Liminal Land website, that's a big scary. And we see a blood red sky and a Ferris wheel, but this time it's animated. By the way, that's an Easter egg. I have some gaming friends that I like talking to about this stuff. And yes, I am a little bit fidgety. Sorry. And something that one of my gaming investigative friends says, that it reminded them of the book I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. That perhaps there is a thing that has been built in Liminal Land that is kind of sentient but kind of not. Like the computer in that book. And it wants to scream because it feels and it experiences, but it can't. And so it started lashing out at those that had created it. I'm like, okay. Okay, well, I'll write that down as a clue, just something to consider. But I don't know how relevant it is. And I haven't read the book, so I can't give you any information there. What is liminal? Okay. Something I decided to do was look into the definition of liminal. And I'm glad I did, because I wasn't sure that I understood what it meant, and looking into the definition really helped clarify some stuff, and it gave a bit more depth and definition, speaking of definitions, haha, to this whole storyline, and it led me to the word liman. Now, liminal actually effectively means borderline, so on the edge of being this or that. It's kind of like the split between the light side of the moon and the dark side of the moon. So, yeah, very interesting that they should use that as part of the name of this place. But what is Lyman? Well, Lyman is what I decided the psychological border that can cause a physiological response. That was very educational as well. And it's kind of the veil between what is notable and what is not. It's a very, very thin veil. So, yeah, subliminal. Okay, right. Well, it's all fitting. What I found very curious was the setup of the homepage. When I went in, there wasn't really anything that caught my attention until I saw the park closure. And I was like, right, I'm going in that. I want to know why the park closed. And it needs a sign-in. Why? Well, gee, I found out why, didn't I? When I was working on the sign-in, I used tons of different things, and I used codes, I used numbers, I used all the hidden messages that I had found, I used names of characters from the show, names of missing persons, and then I remembered, right, and I was like, you know what, there's something there. So maybe what I'm about to tap into is course 7. Okay, let's try it. It didn't get me any further. I only had 1 of 3 parts of the information necessary. So going back to the concept that investigative gamers will share information for the purpose of furthering their own investigation, I decided to look up what other people had tried, because I had already spent plenty enough time trying to figure this out on my own. Now, sure, if I had done enough looking into the rest of the website that is the Liminal Land website, I probably would have figured it out myself, but I'm pleased that another investigative gamer provided their information. I did find it, and I want to say thank you to them. And no, you did not ruin the game. In fact, you just made it so much more interesting, and I'm so happy to have been able to have gotten into that part of the game so quickly and so easily because of the information you shared. So, if you don't want to know what it is, you don't have to. Okay, I hope you didn't see it without wanting to see it. There it is. Rite of passage, all lowercase. And in it you will find an image of Malak. Now, Malak is a religious deity, very, very old. Some of its origin is rather questionable, but in the end, basically, it's got 7 chambers. And it's a deity that requires sacrifices, usually child sacrifices. And so my gut feeling when I looked into this was, oh, okay, so we've got 7 chambers, so maybe that's 7 sacrifices. So is that 7 child sacrifices? And I'll get to this a bit more later on. And was that the flashing fire seen under the door, perhaps? Was something in direct relation to this? Were they building a chamber for the sacrifices they were going to be making in this game? I don't know. I can only assume. But refer back to C Block and Charon and the training video that we were talking about earlier. My gut feeling was count those missing people. The last time, there were 5 children missing. I can only assume that some of the adults that went missing helped those children escape. That's what that looked like to me. Liminal Land website. Back to that. There's the homepage, which was oddly blank except for that animated Ferris wheel in a blood red sky. And there was attractions, accommodation, archive, gallery, park closure, about liminal land, and there's one more, yeah, the gift shop. So the home page was blank. It was just a place to direct people around. I wasn't interested in any of the rest of this stuff until now. So I wanted to know where I could now find some other sort of ratty information that I could really sink my teeth into and go, oh, well, isn't that interesting? So, attractions, I didn't really care what the attractions were. I don't want to know what the rides are. Accommodation, oh, that's interesting. Perhaps I should be looking at that because that ties back into that training video, doesn't it? It talks about keeping the people there as long as possible, making them as comfortable as possible. Oh, let's not leave any exits or escape routes. Okay, right. Archive? Archive of what? That got my attention as well. Gallery, and they're probably just going to be photos and videos where people were milling around. I mean, there might be something in a photo in the background, but yeah, whatever. I wasn't really keen on looking at that, but I did eventually. About liminal land, I already know enough about liminal land. I just signed into this really dark place called the park closure. I mean, come on. What do I want to know about liminal land? So I didn't really want to go there either. But I did eventually go to all these, including, by the way, the gift shop, which was a bit of a cack. I enjoyed that. Oh my goodness. If you get to look at the gift shop, please do. As far as I know, the items there are real, and you really can order them, and I just thought it was so lovely and such a nice treat to have done all this work and then land there. I was like, oh my gosh, I want a hoodie. Anyway, never mind. Moving right along. If you want to help these guys and gals out with their creativity, maybe consider buying something from their gift shop. Moving right along with the Liminal Land website, the first place I went to after that password dive was archives. And that is where I will stop for now. I just looked at the clock. And I thank you so very much for watching all of these videos. I hope you've been enjoying this adventure as much as I have. And I look forward to making another video for you. It will probably be another day because it's starting to get a little bit dark as the sun is going down. And I'll see you next time.